So in today's episode of INVICTA Vox Radio, we are going to be talking about your backup plan. What is your backup plan? Should you even have a backup plan? These are the things that people are asking us, and we're going to answer that question.
Let's roll the intro. This podcast is for singers who have music in their soul and want to be in the spotlight. We are INVICTA Vox Radio.
All right, welcome back to another episode of INVICTA Vox Radio, where, as always, we are your hosts, Mike and
Angie Lee.
And as we talked or brought up earlier, we're going to be talking about backup plan.
Yeah.
Because this gets talked about all the time
it's
in the
like
studio.
When you're an artist and you tell people that you want to have a professional career as a singer or a songwriter, the first thing the normal people ask you is, what's your backup plan if it doesn't work out?
And by that, I think what they're actually saying is, what's your real plan? Because most people are essentially saying, okay, you're not going to make money as a musician. And based on track records, I get it. I get
a lot of
why
failed musicians.
Yeah, I get why they bring that up. But
like, people just don't see that it's even a viable option. Or you have like parents who are terrified of their child pursuing a career in music for so many different reasons, but it's just because it's looked upon as not a real career. Like, it's not viewed that way. And then the people who do view it as a career, they're like, oh, it's just luck if you make it, and only 1 in a million can make money doing music. And so they're like, well, that's really nice. That's really nice for you to pursue, but what are you going to do when you grow up? And it's funny. Like, this is such a weird thing in our culture because we're all about putting kids into extracurricular activities and really exploring who they are and who, what they want to be. And then it's like parents are always like, we got to get in piano lessons or guitar lessons. We got to sing. And then, oh yeah, my child, when you're 15, I will totally support you in creating an EP and recording. But as soon as you graduate high school or as soon as you graduate college, it's like, you're going to pursue that for the rest of your life. Oh, that's just what you do for fun. And it's like, well, why do we support these kids thinking that they can go all in on this the entire time they're growing up? And then as soon as they have to get a quote unquote real job, then we're like, all of a sudden, like, so what's your backup plan?
yeah.
It's so weird. It's just a weird, I don't know. I don't get it.
And I get it. Like you said, a lot of it comes from fear. A lot of it, especially from parents, you want to see your kid be successful and you want them to really, have a good life. And I'm putting air quotes up if you're not watching the video, but
we're air quoting a lot right now.
but it's interesting to me because, we're at the stage at least so for me, right? I'm an engineer. I've been an engineer for a long time.
You're a project manager.
But, okay, and I look back at it and it's like, I hope that my kids swing hard for the fences, especially throughout their entire 20s. Mm-hmm. Right now, if at that point you haven't started to gain traction or you feel like there's nothing there, then maybe reevaluate at that point, right? And I think most people naturally do. I remember when we went to the ASCAP convention or expo a couple of years ago.
It was right before the pandemic. It was like 2019.
Yeah, and they asked the guy who wrote that song on, what's that Lady Gaga movie?
Bradley Cooper movie.
Yeah.
Help. Oh.
Damn it.
I'm going to look it up while you talk. You talk about it. I'll look it up. Everybody else knows what we're talking about except for us.
Yeah. So they asked one of the songwriters, like, hey, when do you think people should give up on music? And he said
Star is Born, that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was saying 40. He's like, I don't think anybody should quit before they're 40. And
Shallow.
Yeah, Shallow. Okay.
The song Shallow. The songwriter for Shallow is the one talking.
Yeah, one of them, right? It's
one of the songwriters.
Written by a couple of people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what broke his career, and he's
in his 40s. I think he was 42 at the time. His early 40s when he wrote Shallow, and it finally hit, and that was his first song that actually cracked the charts. As a songwriter, as a professional songwriter, and he'd been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think he'd had like, minor successes, but that's like the first like
big one,
big hit.
Yeah.
And so I definitely hope for my kids that they really go for it, but I understand why there's some parents who are scared. But I will say this, the problem is, and we've seen this with other artists, is they get into a phase where the backup plan is actually the plan.
And they don't realize it. It kind of takes over.
And then
yeah.
And then like music becomes almost just this thing that they're going to do casually on the side. They're going to put some effort into it and see if it works.
Yeah.
Okay, in what world do you expect to be one of the best in the game if you're putting in hardly any time? So what I mean by that is, okay, so say you're in the college phase, right? Because we see this all the time. Like you said, a lot of people, it's like, okay, we support you in this until you go to college. Once you're done with high school, then you're on your own.
Or even some parents will be like, yeah, go get a degree in musical theater. Let's do all these college auditions. And then they're like, okay, now get a job.
Yeah, I think musical theater's a little bit different.
It's a little different. But even still, it's like, okay, I'm going to go get my degree in, like, guitar.
But yeah, but let's just throw this out. Okay, so we had one student, and their backup plan was being a teacher, like a elementary school teacher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So here's the thing, though. Okay, so you graduate, you move out of the house, or you graduate high school, you move out of the house, you're maybe staying at college, maybe rooming with some people, whatever it may be.
Maybe you don't go to college, but still.
But what I'm saying is, in this scenario where someone's going to be a teacher, or that's their backup
She's getting
plan.
a degree in elementary education.
Okay. So you're telling me that you're going to school, you're probably working at least part-time to pay your bills on the side, and then you're still going to have time for music and expect yourself to legitimately have a music career? I would say that person is fooling themselves. It's like school's 4 or 5 hours a day, your work's 4 or 5 hours a day, right? So
homework.
So you're 9, 10, and then with homework, so you're probably like 12 hours a day, plus commuting, plus whatever. How much time? And granted, when you're in college, you can probably get away with a little less sleep, but you're not going to, it's like you can't develop the skills necessary or create the traction that you need on 1 to 2 hours a day.
Yeah. No, you can't, especially when you're in the beginning of your career. It's just not going to happen. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't go to college. Like some people really thrive when they go to college. But I will tell you, like every single one of my students who is in the midst of going to college and is trying to do music is not doing both well. Because you can really only focus on one thing at a time that you want to make excellent. You can't focus on multiple things at a time and have all of them be excellent. That's just not how it goes. Wherever your focus goes, your energy flows. And so if you have to focus on 12 to 15 hours a day of school and work, then your music becomes a hobby. Now, if your game plan is to just be like, hey, I just want to go to college and get it out of the way because I want a degree, and then I'm going to go all in on my music, then that's another plan. That's another plan, another way to make it happen. But typically, if you're getting a degree, that means you're going to get a career when you're done, because you got to pay back your college debt, or maybe, I don't know, these days, who knows. But anyway, you got to pay back your student loans. You got to be able to make money because you're out of school. Maybe you were there on grants. Maybe you were there on scholarship, and now you have to actually pay for life. And so then you go and you have to get a job. And then it just keeps going from there. And then all of a sudden, your plan B becomes your plan A, because that's where your focus is on. That's where you're putting all of your attention. And anything you put your attention on will grow, whether it's in the negative or the positive. Whether it's something you want or you don't want. If you're focusing on it, it's growing, no matter what. So if most of your time and attention are going to something else because it's your backup plan, then plan A is not going to happen. Plan A is no longer plan A. And so that's why we use the scenario of the college student, because it's such an easy one to see. And we see it happen all the time because, we have lots of teens that are at our studio who are like all in on their music. They're like, yeah, all I want to do when I grow up is be a musician. And then they get scared and they go to college and they choose a real career. And then it's all over. And they get really frustrated down the road because they're like, man, my career's on the back burner. Nothing's happening with my music. And it's like, yeah, because you're not focused on it. Yeah. And then we kind of see the cycle. We see the turnaround Because you see a lot of people in their late 20s be like, man, I gave it up too early. I want to come back to it.
Right. Or
Or in
late
their
20s, early 30s.
We see people in their 40s come around to it and be like, yeah, I really still want this career in music. And that's like even you're a professional engineer and we're 39 years old. And you're like, I could peace out. You know, you'd rather you're doing the opposite thing. You got the logical career and now you want to be in the music industry.
Well, but that's, but that's what a lot of it is. But that's where I think the sad part for me really is people don't give music a real shot.
They really don't.
Because
they don't give it even a chance or an opportunity.
Yeah, because it's such a small percentage. They just automatically assume, okay, like my chances of making it are so low, I'm going to give it one kind of shot. Mm-hmm. And if I don't make it, then I just wasn't ever meant to be that. Which, if you compared that to anything else, like if I did that for engineering or my job, and it's like, yeah, I'll kind of put in a half-assed effort and then hope that, I'll give it a go if I'm not amazing at it up front, if I'm not world class with one try.
Or have an immediate career. If I can't be a project manager outside of college, then I'm giving up. It's like, dude, you can't even get your professional engineer license until you've been in the field for like 10 years.
Right. But the thing that separates music, and let's be real, is you just don't make money with music until you get to a certain point.
Yeah.
And I think that's what scares most people off. Like if they could make a certain amount of money up front, I think more people would be into it. But let's look at something that's kind of related, that has like almost a benchmark that you can look at, right? Like another thing is professional sports.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I would say professional sports is very similar, where you're not going to make any money until you get to a certain level. But the thing is, you have these indicators along the way that show whether you're progressing towards that or not. And what I mean is, so you make the high school team. Then if you make college, then it's like, okay, maybe I have a shot at pros. And then as you're in college, then you start to see, okay, am I like in the upper tier or the lower tier? And then you have like scouts find you or whatever, right? And so there's some indication that you could go to that next level. And even those guys, like guys that get drafted in the late rounds of, let's say, the NFL, right? Like if you're drafted in the first 3 rounds, you have a good chance of making the team. Even if you're drafted on a team and you're in those back end rounds, so like 5, 6, 7, a lot of those guys don't ever make the team and actually don't make it to the NFL, even though they were drafted. So, but it just goes to show that we need to see progress. We're scared to jump out on a limb without having some kind of indication that we're going to make it, or that there's a good possibility that we're going to make it.
Right. Well, 2 things along that line. First of all, what you did that's different from like the whole NFL analogy, because that's absolutely true. We need to see benchmarks, and we understand that as you climb higher, you have to be more elite at what you do. And I completely agree with that. But where it's different is, one, what amounts to success for you for music, because that could be very different across the board. And for every artist, it is individual. And 2, the journey of an independent artist is very different than someone who's actually trying to get signed with a label, because your NFL analogy actually works very well compared to music if someone is actually trying to get signed. If they're trying to be on a label, that's like trying to get drafted into the NFL, right? But we're speaking to independent artists who want to have an independent career outside of a label. And if that's the case, way more people have a chance at that quote unquote draft, the music draft, right? There's way more opportunity for success because you're not confined to just one league. It's all about speaking to your market niche and all of that. So then it comes down to, yes, you have to have your benchmarks of excellence, and you do have to understand that you have to grow, and that we are looking to over time be more and more elite, because the better you are, the more chance and opportunities you'll have to succeed. But also, the question for you guys is, what means success to you? because for some artists, it's, I just want a lot of people to hear my music. I don't care if I make money. That is a lot of people. They're like, I actually like my day job. It's pretty chill. I just want a lot of people to hear my music. It's like, okay, that amounts to success. But if you're the person who wants to make enough money to live and to live well and also have a lot of status and a lot of people who've heard your music and celebrate you and have a lot of fans, that's absolutely attainable to do on an independent basis. And so you have to set your goals and your targets proportionate to what you want to achieve in your music career. And if you want to be playing in the big leagues, then yeah, you got to work your ass off to get there. But yeah, it comes down to those two things of, do you want to have an independent artist journey, and what does that look like to you? And then what does success equal?
Okay, and I would actually argue that most people actually really want success in music. And they downplay. Success,
not just people listening to their music, but they also want to make money. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, not defining success as like, hey, if you want to have a hobby and just release music because it's fun for you, that's one thing, okay?
Yeah.
But if you want a lot of people to hear your music, you want a career in music where you're actually paying for the bills with music.
Yeah.
I think that's truly the only way that you actually get a lot of people to hear your music.
Yeah.
So, but here's one question I'll float out to you, okay? Because I think a lot of people face this. And what advice would you give someone that they're like in that scenario where they're considering, okay, what are my options, or how serious am I going to take my music, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you give that person? Should they have a plan B or a backup plan?
Well, the first thing I think you got to consider is, why are you doubting yourself? Is it because there's external forces at play that are not believing in your ability to do it? Like, I have a lot of kids who are going into college right now that I'm working with, and they are terrified to actually pursue music, and that's what they really want, because they don't want to disappoint their parents. Because their parents are terrified, and so they're nudging them to do something different. So are you facing something like that? Or is it that, like, you just don't have the faith in yourself? Maybe you've tried it and failed. You know, what's your track record with that? Because that makes a big difference. And honestly, like, you have to decide and have the fortitude within yourself to trust yourself and say, do I really want this? Because it's really hard work. I know everybody wants the quick, easy pill to be like, yeah, I'm instantly famous. But let me tell you, even the people who make it on The Voice, which is not luck, by the way, they worked really hard to be there. Their voices are excellent because they worked hard on their voices, okay? But that's not like the sure end-all, be-all for them to have success just because they were on some TV show.
Well, right. There's people who win.
Who you never heard of.
Most people who win, you'll never hear of again. They fall off the face of
the earth.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as a magic pill. Just because you get signed by a label does not mean you're going to be successful, because there is an insanely high percentage of shelving artists that don't even see the light of day. I know more artists who are trying to get out of bad deals with labels than artists who have signed and are successful with them. So what you got to do is say, do I have the fortitude to do this? Do I want it bad enough to bleed for it? Because if you do, if it's something you know is just going to be prodding at you for the rest of your life, and no matter what you do, you are not satisfied unless you're doing your music, then go all in. And there's always going to be people on the fringe and people who are close to you who really, really love you, who don't understand, and they're going to doubt you every step of the way. And that's okay. And that's okay. It's going to happen. And they're going to ask you every single time, so when are you going to just get settle down? How many times did I get that when I was like out with my band doing all kinds of crazy stuff, going and playing at Warped Tour and going out to San Francisco to record and doing all this crazy thing. And then people close to us would always be like, so when are you going to settle down?
Right. So
it happened all the time. You were the only person, Mike, through the entire thing that didn't ask that question.
Right. And again, so for me, when I look at advice, okay, this is what I would tell that person. 1, get honest feedback about where you're at. Okay?
As an artist.
As an artist.
Yeah.
Go play your stuff. Find somebody who's willing to actually give you the truth. Okay? Even if you're in the beginning stages, you're not where you need to be yet. Is there something there? Are you driven enough where you're just working at it like crazy? Is there a spark in your talent? Does somebody see something in you that could be a star, or not even necessarily a star, but like you can see that with people, okay?
Yeah. Are you obsessed?
And so get honest feedback. That's step number 1. Step number 2, please find a mentor that can help direct you.
Because that's the mistake most people make.
Because we're gonna go into this in probably the next podcast episode, where it's like you do have talent, but there are holes in your game. So come back for that podcast, please, because this is a huge part of the puzzle.
Yeah, because you might be all in and obsessed, but if you don't understand the holes in your game, it doesn't matter how hard you work, you're not going anywhere.
Right.
And the whole point is we want to prove all those people wrong. Like, I'm okay with you having a little bit of a chip on your shoulder to be like, yeah, you said I couldn't do it. Watch me.
Yeah. So,
but when you go do that, though, when you go say, watch me, I want you to actually take actionable steps to get there, and not just like be going around in circles and be one of those many musicians who quits 10 years later and is just like completely devastated.
Okay. So that would be number 3. So for me, if step 1 is get honest feedback, step 2, get a mentor, step 3, set up actual benchmark metrics to see, are you progressing? Are you getting better? Are you getting more fans? Are you creating better music? Whatever that might be, you need to set up these benchmarks that will indicate to you that you are progressing. And then, just like you said, along the entire path, you have to have absolute faith in yourself. Even when things aren't looking good, like you get those things, especially after you've gotten some feedback. So if someone else sees something in you, you need to see that in yourself and go all in after it and drive towards it. And
well, and I agree with that. And I think that's why the number 4 thing would actually be surrounding yourself with a community of people who understand you and support you.
Yeah.
Like being around like-minded musicians, being around really great mentors too. I mean, you've picked your mentor, but then also being able to communicate with people who understand what you're going through is such a big, big deal. And it does play huge into your success, because sometimes we need those people to pick us up when we're having our nervous breakdown from the week, like.
Yeah, happens a lot.
It happens a lot. So just keep that in mind. You guys, we're fighters. We're artists. We're amazing at this. Okay. We got this. And no matter how many people doubt you, if you're that person that we described that's obsessed and is all in and can't imagine doing anything else with your life, then let's get to work. Let's do those things. Let's find those mentors. Let's get those tangible benchmarks that we need to work through, and all of those things. So, but just know that you have to. The first thing you have to do is really have faith in yourself.
Yeah. You
really just have to believe that it's possible, and don't worry about the external and internal dialogue of all the shit that you can or can't do.
Right. And so I would say it's not about the backup plan. It's not about plan A and plan B. No. It's about plan A and plan A. So so if your original plan A doesn't work,
then you go find a plan B. Yeah.
Pivot and make that your plan A, and then go in all on that. Yeah. Because you don't have the time, energy, or focus to try and focus on 2 things at once.
Yep.
So it's always plan A, plan A.
Yep.
All right.
So that's it.
We'll just leave you guys with that.
So the question of the day for me for you guys is, what do you need to do today to start taking the step toward plan A? What is your plan A? And really evaluate that. Is it your music? Think about it. Have you been stuck in pursuing your plan B and forgetting your music and putting it on the back burner and being frustrated with why it's not working? Or are you someone where it's like, nope, I'm all in. I want to do music. Maybe it hasn't been working for you. Maybe it has. But from there, we can take the next steps we need to take. But I want you to evaluate that today.
Yep.
And with that,
please, if this has benefited you at all and you think it would help somebody else, just please jump on and rate and and review the podcast.
Yeah, ring the bell.
So just wherever you can do it, rate and review it. It'll help the show grow and help other artists just like you. So until next time.
Peace.